surrender all to you. No, I'm going nowhere.
You remember the story I shared with you some time ago about my first experience of Super Bowl? It was Super Bowl Sunday, the 4th of February, 2018. The game was between the Philadelphia Eagles and the New England Patriots. The Eagles won the game 41-33. It was a very important win for the Eagles because they were playing against the defending champions. The first mistake I made on that day was to pay a pastoral visit to a family that was watching the Super Bowl on the TV screen. When I first arrived, I noticed that every attention in the room was on the TV screen. It took some special grace for those in the room to acknowledge my presence. Then I said to myself, Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing. I decided to join them in watching the game, hoping to learn some things about the game and maybe pick some interest in American football. A few minutes into the game, I realized that those I visited were fans of the Eagles. At a point, it was difficult for me to make up my mind on whether to focus on the screen or to focus on those in the room, because there were more actions in the room at some points than on the screen. Some of my friends in the room, at some points, will raise their hands and throw some imaginary balls or catch some imaginary balls. The lady I sat next to had a better control of her hands, but her right leg was restless. And I was sitting at her right-hand side. At some point, I noticed she was kicking an imaginary ball. And when I noticed how the kick was increasing, I decided to pretend that I went to the bathroom. And on my way back from the bathroom, I pretended to have forgotten where I was sitting. And I took a different seat far away from her. I feared that at some point, she would mistake me for the ball. And returning to the rectory with injuries, my pastor may not believe my story. Towards the end of the game, even though the Eagles were leading, those in the room had a legitimate and a justifiable fear of Tom Brady, the quarterback of the Patriots. Because from his track record, at points like that, he could bring his team to a tie. But at the end of the day, when the Patriots had their final possession of the ball, they were unable to score, to take the game to overtime and win as they had done in the past. And so, the Eagles won, and it was great celebration for those in the room and for the Eagles. The next Sunday, I decided to pay another visit to the same family. And when I arrived, I noticed that they were watching the same game on the television. but this time the recorded version of it. And the other difference I noticed, there was no tension in the room. Everyone was relaxed. The lady I ran away from the previous Sunday was sitting on a rocking chair, and by her side, a bottle of beer with popcorn. And I said to her, "Why are you relaxed today? No tension. Watching the same game?" And she laughed and said, "Father, relax. We have watched it before. We know how it ended. Our team won." Sometime towards the end of the game, I noticed Tom Brady had the ball. And then I decided to scream, Tom terrific again. He's with the ball. He's going with it." And then the lady said to me, "Father, relax. Tom Brady may have the ball even until tomorrow. I don't care. I know how it ended. My team won." My dearly beloved in Christ, today, the readings we have bring to mind the age-old question of where is God when bad things happen to good people? In the first reading, for example, we see Abraham taking Isaac up to be sacrificed. Considering the fact that Abraham and his wife Sarah waited for a long time and now in their old age and having this only child, one will be wondering, God, why do you permit such evil? Why would you allow this child to be killed? Especially when it got to the point where Abraham raised his knife to slaughter the boy Isaac. One would have screamed, God, why? And at that point, I imagine God on a rocking chair like my friend in the Super Bowl story saying, relax, my child. I've seen it before. I know how it ended. The boy will not die. A ram will be provided to die in place of the boy. In the gospel passage, we have the story of the transfiguration of Jesus. The transfiguration came as a preview, as a trailer. The transfiguration came to prepare Jesus for the difficult days ahead. A preview of what would happen after the crucifixion. And so when Jesus got to the garden at Gethsemane and seeing all the difficulties ahead, Jesus cried to his Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass me by. And I imagine his Father saying to him, relax, my son. I have seen it before. I know how it ended. It will end in glory. And then Jesus said, not my will, but your will be done. Later on the cross, it came to a point when it became very difficult for Jesus to bear the pains. And Jesus cried out, my God, why have you abandoned me? Then I imagine his Father saying to him, relax, my son. I have seen it before. I know how it ended. It will end in glory. And then Jesus submitted to his Father, saying, into your hands, O Lord, I commend my spirit. My dearly beloved in Christ, as we begin the second week of the season of Lent, I have no idea what your story has been like. Maybe you are a victim of constant persecution. Maybe the truth you stand for is winning you many enemies. Maybe those in authority or those who are close to the corridors of power are using you to flex their muscles. Maybe you have been fighting some temptations. Maybe your prayers seem to be falling on deaf ears. It is even possible that today is the ultimatum that you have given to God. Maybe your prayer has been, why me? God, why now? Before you give up on yourself, before you give up on God, before you submit to the philosophy of if you cannot beat them, join them, God is saying to you, relax, my child. I have seen it before. I know how it ended. I know the end from the beginning. I have the victory. I have the final victory already prepared for you at the end of the game. So do not run away from the game before the game is over. You know what? Sometimes God calms the storm. Other times, God allows the storm to rage while he calms his child. St. Paul tells us in today's second reading that if God is on our side, no one, nothing can be against us. And so, my dearly beloved in Christ, in the midst of all the afflictions we may be experiencing, in the changes and the chances of this life, God is saying to us, be still and know that I am God.